Waiting for something important can feel like an eternity, can't it? Whether it's the results of an exam, the fulfillment of a promise, or the return of a loved one, the minutes drag on like hours. You're not alone. This is a shared human experience. Your heart races with anticipation and sometimes anxiety as expectations run high. It's not just impatience that gnaws at you, but also the emotional toll of not knowing if your hopes will be realized. The fear of disappointment, the haunting thought of being left behind, or even the fear of being wrong weigh heavily on your soul. There's wisdom in the saying, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. In the pursuit of your heart's desires, it is vital to acknowledge the challenges that accompany the wait. As you grapple with the stretching timeline, understand that your fears and apprehensions are a natural part of the process. Rather than allowing these emotions to overwhelm you, recognizing them can be the first step in developing strategies to cope. Embrace the realization that, just as the book of Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 12, suggests, there is life and joy in longings fulfilled. Beloved, be patient. Keep your fears in check, and know this: the best things in life are worth the wait. Having established how intrinsic waiting is to the human experience, let us remember that oftentimes this waiting extends into our spiritual lives. I want you to know that everyone has expectations, and we will never go through life without having to wait for one thing or another at some point. In fact, right now, maybe you're waiting on God for the miracle of a child. Someone else is waiting on God for safe delivery. Another is waiting on God for a good or better job. You may even be waiting on God for a promotion or for a partner, and it feels like no one's coming. I want to tell you that if you're waiting on God, you will never wait in vain. I can guarantee you that. It might be difficult, but it will not be in vain. You see, there is no guarantee of fulfillment with man. Therefore, you cannot use the experience of your dealings with people to measure how you deal with God. A human being has many limitations, and it's not his or her fault. They are just flesh and blood. And being flesh and blood, there are things they can't do for you. For example, no human can be with you forever. Not your siblings, not your parents, and not your friends. No human can be with you everywhere you go. No human can be with you every time you need them. No human being can do everything you ask them. There are places they can't be, things they can't see, things they can't feel, things they can't do. They can get tired, they can get sick, they can die, they can be absent. Traffic may delay them. The doctor might make you a promise and fail. Your husband may disappoint you. Your lawyer may try and still not win the case after months and months. Again, I say this: it's not bad to have expectations. There is no guarantee of fulfilled expectations with men because humans are limited in capacities in time and in space. Howbeit, when we wait on God, we are sure not to be put to shame. When we wait on God, it's not just about hanging around doing nothing. It's about having trust in someone who's consistently reliable. He's always present, always powerful, and always knowing. There's no place he can't be, no problem he can't solve, and no situation he isn't aware of. He doesn't have a schedule to keep, and he's not going to forget. He's literally always available, and his promises aren't empty. It's the reality of who God is, and it means when we rely on Him, we're not going to be disappointed. Also, waiting on God has this amazing side effect. It actually helps us grow as individuals. It's kind of like exercise for our character. We become more patient, trusting, and even a bit wiser. There's this sense of relief in acknowledging that we don't have to know or control everything. You don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to have a little faith and give yourself a break. You're not alone, beloved. God is with you. The book of Psalms, chapter 25, verse 3 says, "No one who hopes in you will ever be put to shame, but shame will come on those who are treacherous without cause." Beloved, what makes waiting on God more important and reliable than waiting on man is this. A person may promise to do something for you, give something to you, or anything you need, and they may forget they even told you so. Another may even go home and neglect it because he never truly meant what he said. Another may just be lying to you. But you see, with God, it's not so when God makes you wait for a miracle or a breakthrough, whatever you need. It's not as if He goes to sleep on your case. No. While you wait on God's timing, God is working on your behalf. It's like sending a package through a courier service. After you've carefully packed your box and handed it over to the courier, you get your tracking number, and then, you wait. The package is making its way through various stages, getting sorted, maybe hopping onto a plane, traveling through customs if it's international. You may wait a little or a lot, depending on how far the package has to go and how busy the service is. But eventually, you'll get that notification that it's been delivered. In between you handing over that package and it reaching its destination, there's this waiting period where it's being handled and moved in the most efficient route possible. Sometimes, overnight, shipping gets it there fast, but sometimes, especially with valuable or delicate items, it takes a bit longer because care and attention are essential. Sometimes it's swift, and sometimes it's not. This is the same way with God. During the times of waiting, you may feel forgotten or even like God. It's not likely to answer you. However, the truth is that God uses your waiting to prepare your blessing. Let that sink in. Someone once said that if God gave you everything you asked for right away, you'd only know Him as a giver. Yet, sometimes, between your request and the answer, He teaches you humility, persistence, selflessness, patience, virtues which help you manage the answer correctly when it comes. God is not only a giver, He is also a teacher. No waiting period with God is ever wasted. This is why God is worth waiting on. Once upon a time, like everyone else, David was so frustrated that he let his frustrations out on God. He couldn't understand why things happened so quickly and favorably for people who didn't fear God. Those who spoke ill of God and the faith seemed to fare better than those who were patiently waiting on God. Does this sometimes reflect how you feel? Yes. It's not abnormal to have such thoughts. Perhaps you haven't had the chance to express your grievances to God like David did, but the truth is, God doesn't mind our honesty. He can handle it. The book of Psalms, chapter 62, verse 8 says, "Trust in Him at all times, you people. Pour out your hearts to Him, for God is your refuge." Now, back to David in Psalms, chapter 73. These are the words of David. "But as for me, My feet had almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold, for I envied the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. They have no struggles. Their bodies are healthy and strong. They are free from common human burdens. They are not plagued by human ills. Therefore, pride is their necklace. They clothe themselves with violence. From their callous hearts comes iniquity. Their evil imaginations have no limits. They scoff and speak with malice, with arrogance. They threaten oppression. Their mouths lay claim to heaven, and their tongues take possession of the earth. Therefore, their people turn to them and drink up waters in abundance. They say, "How would God know? Does the Most High know anything?" This is what the wicked are like, always free of care. They go on amassing wealth, surely in vain. I have kept my heart pure and have washed my hands in innocence all day long. I have been afflicted, and every morning brings new punishments. But amidst this anguish, David finds his perspective. He realizes that despite the apparent success of the wicked, their fate is indeed a dreadful one. If we read further into the chapter, we find David saying, "When I tried to understand all this, it troubled me deeply till I entered the sanctuary of God. Then I understood their final destiny." It is then that he understands that, despite their seemingly carefree and prosperous lives, the wicked are set on a slippery path that leads to destruction. This understanding transforms David's despair into hope as he recognizes that God's justice may not be immediate, but it is inevitable. Therefore, he concludes, "Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory." This is telling us that when life seems unfair, when we are faced with the apparent prosperity of the wicked, we must remember that God's ways are higher than our ways and His justice is perfect. We must continue to live righteously and trust in His perfect timing and justice. Listen, that you're dealing with this fear or frustration does not mean that you don't love or trust God. It simply means you're human. You've got fears and needs to deal with. It's when faith overcomes fear and doubt that we truly experience victories. People may mock you for waiting on God, but don't quit. It may seem like a foolish decision. Many other alternatives may arise, and you may be tempted to move when you know God has asked you to wait. Dear beloved, I understand the pressure may be intense, but have you forgotten what the Bible says in Psalms chapter 126, verse 1? When the Lord brought back the captives to Zion, we were like men who dreamed. It doesn't take God a second to change your story, believe me. And when He does, it will seem like a dream, impossible to believe. When He brings the breakthrough, it will overshadow the years of waiting. So, hang in there. Keep that hope alive and remember that there's strength in patience. It's like when you plant a seed, it doesn't grow into a tree overnight. It needs time to put down roots, to grow, and then finally to flourish. That's your faith and trust in God. It's a seed that you've planted. Water it with prayer, nourish it with belief, and shield it with determination. The world around you might be fast-paced, but the most beautiful and enduring changes take time. And when that change finally comes, it's monumental. It's beyond what you might have imagined. People around you who might not have understood your weight will be in awe. You'll look back and realize that every second of waiting was worth it. Your story, your testimony, will be an inspiration for others. Don't lose heart, beloved. You're on the cusp of something magnificent.